So here goes. Many times I've been told you should have a YouTube channel, you should write a book. So I've had some major shifts in my energy in the last couple of months, and here I am throwing it out there, talking about things that come into my energy. And if it doesn't work, I can always delete it. So first episode or first recording, whatever video for my YouTube channel, Paul Willis Energy. So what's coming into my energy is I want to talk about the last 8 year cycle I've been on where I've had to do a lot of shadow work and a lot of karmic work and go through experiences that I believe were naturally part of my evolution. Although at the time, I felt like I was dying. Um, and a lot of that is just buzzwords, I know, but my astrological chart indicated that I was meant to have some major shifts in 2014, 2017, and 2019. And that's exactly what happened. Those shifts were all foundational, still shifting, leading me to a state of destitution, stripping away what I understood my identity and value to be, and making way for the illusions to dissolve so that I could come back into alignment with my genuine self. I went through heartache, heartbreak, deep emotional work, intense shadow work, and several severe dark nights of the soul, some of which felt like they would break me completely. And dark nights of the soul is something serious. They're energetically death. They're energetic deaths. The deaths are part of your identity that you don't need anymore. A lot of people say it's a rebirth. It's not a rebirth. You're just coming back into alignment with your genuine self after all the programming and release of crap, basically. And I've had more physical issues in the last 8 years than ever before in my life. And I was a competitive track and field athlete at a state level in my teenage years. And I only had two injuries in 14 years then. But in the last 8 years, I've torn my inner oblique. I've suffered from severe sciatica. I contracted COVID 4 times the first time in 2020 at its height. My parents used to call me at 6 p.m. every night to check in with me. And about a year and a half later, my mum and I were talking about mortality. And she said, I know you're not scared of death because we didn't expect you to answer the phone when you were sick with COVID in 2020 because I was so close to death was what she was saying. And the last round of COVID, I suffered long-term COVID issues. I've still got them. I dislocated my ankle and had to get rescued from a canyon. Had skin cancer removals. I tore my quadricep on two separate occasions and endured severe vertigo that led to 11 days in hospital and complete rehabilitation to walk because it developed chronic disequilibrium, which means I lose my balance if my line of sight isn't level. And just a few days ago, like a week and a half ago now, 2 weeks ago, I think it might have been, I tore my hamstring while running to home plate at softball. Crazy. And on an emotional level, I left what was becoming an abusive relationship. I couldn't get hired because my experience and qualifications meant nothing in the country that I'd moved to. I fought off depression and survived on $12,000 of income in one of those years of destitution. I lost all excess body fat because I couldn't afford to eat. I was pretty ripped, but I was starved. I had several false starts in the dating pool, which ultimately helped me identify a deep emotional wound. And that wound being I was seeking fulfillment outside of myself, looking for it in another person. I carried anger at the world, at certain life events, and I was exhausted by people projecting their unresolved issues onto me. So for the last 25 years, I've been committed to evolving. I've always known there was more to me than I allowed myself to believe. So I did the work. I did deep shadow work. I did karmic work. I was fortunate to have an incredible mentor, significant role models that I've admired over the years, and friends who supported my spiritual journey and energy activation. I have had extraordinary experiences that have led to my evolution. I've worked with shamans in Bali, in Australia, in New Zealand, here in North America. I've had an audience. I've been in an audience with the Dalai Lama. Been on retreats with Indian spiritual gurus who have millions and millions, millions of followers. Lots. Um, and it's all helped me release negative, disempowering energy trapped in my shadow and subconscious from my karmic journey. It took me years, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, and immense energy work to understand that my state of being at any given moment had nothing to do with the bullies who destroyed my confidence back in high school when they were rallying up to 40 other boys to chant taunts at me every day in my high school life. And it wasn't my parents' programming around financial security. It wasn't even the lingering subconscious harm from being roofied and drugged against my will back in 2008. The realization was this: all those experiences were part of my journey to break cycles of deficiency. They were the challenges I chose before entering this lifetime. Think of the process of how a lobster grows. Its shell doesn't expand. It isn't born with a massive shell to grow into. Instead, it grows, it sheds the shell, and forms a larger one to accommodate its expansion. Over and over, it sheds, and grows. That's exactly what I've been doing my inner work, shedding old patterns, expanding, feeling stuck, shedding through emotional work, then growing again, repeating the process constantly. And this has had this has been a significant part of my karmic path, a path some believe we choose before we enter this human existence. And through all of this, I never felt like I fit in. I didn't feel included. And now, even after completing the majority of my karmic work, no, I've completed my karmic work, people tell me, other intuitives tell me, I'm just dealing with the energy that I created. I still don't feel like I belong. I live in a regional city, a tourist destination in the desert in California, where there is a strong community that I align to, yet I remain on the fringe. Most of the social activity here revolves around some form of numbing or drinking or escapism, or requires adopting a specific identity to integrate into a sub-community. And there's no judgments on that. There's no judgment on those communities, but I just don't fit. I don't relate. I don't align. And then there's what I do. I work professionally with energy and intuition, sometimes revealing deeply personal insights about people's lives with their permission in session with them. And people react only in three different ways when they learn what I do. They fear me, believing I can see their secrets. That's not how it works. They pedestal me on some pedestal, thinking I'm more superior than them because of what I do, because they don't do that. And, they can't relate to me ever. Or they try to get my services for free. Too often, I've made an effort with people only to hear them say, "You intimidate me." And when I ask why, it turns out that I don't intimidate them, they are intimidated by me. There's a big difference. And yes, I've done a lot of personal development. I've had incredible experiences, traveled widely around the world, had a great corporate career, etc. I've rarely shied away from challenges, and I've cultivated my intuitive gifts, still cultivating, still evolving them. But through all that, I've also learned humility. My mentor also told me you can't channel if you're not humble. And vulnerability is the core of energy healing and being humble. It requires letting down your guard, shedding your protective layers, not allowing others to see you fully and authentically. True healing doesn't come from pretending we are above our pain, nor does it come from guarding ourselves so tightly that nothing can touch us. It comes from standing in our truth, exposed and raw. That's vulnerability. Yet knowing that this openness is our greatest strength, that's the most important part. Humility is essential for anyone walking the path of an empath or a healer or an intuitive. It reminds us we are not above anyone else. We are simply at a different point in our journey, compared to them. We can only serve as a clear channels for guidance and for energy purposes if we live in a space of humility. This means recognizing that while we have done our work, we are not superior. We are just experienced enough to relate to people at all stages of their growth. The more we embrace our own vulnerability, the more we cultivate true humility. And the more we do that, the clearer we become, not just as channels, but as human beings walking a path of deep connection, authenticity, and service. Now, my challenge is to find my tribe. But if I can't find it, why not build it? It's intimidating and vulnerable to stand before the world as a middle aged, intuitive healer, seer, and human, stepping into my destiny, navigating my emotional and egoic challenges, and acknowledging that I don't relate to much of what surrounds me. But that too is part of the journey, and I'm ready to walk it. Are you ready to join me?